No. We're not moving forward yet. We haven't talked about how shitty Gerald Hightower is yet. Everybody, welcome back to the Glass Candle Podcast, where we look at what is, what could be, and what will come in A Song of Ice and Fire. My name is Eric.
And I'm Lillian, and we admin over at the A Song of Ice and Fire / Game of Thrones Discussions and Theories Facebook group. You can find us by searching ASOIAF / GOT Discussions and Theories.
And today we are rounding out our last Catelyn chapter from A Clash of Kings. It's Catelyn number 7. This is going to be the end of our first phase for us going through A Clash of Kings, and we'll figure out later on what we're going to do next with the next POV. But as of now, let's enjoy and celebrate Jaime, or Jaime in this Catelyn chapter.
Do you want to do the episode breakdown and how we do things?
Yes. It's going to be a huge change from what we normally do. We're going to give a high-level summary. Lillian's going to give that for this one. We're going to discuss who the main character of the chapter was. We're going to look at what held the biggest influence over the POV character and why. We're going to see what kind of alternative actions the POV character, or I guess any character, could have done in this chapter to avoid the result that we know happens. We take a look at how things that happen here affect the other plots going forward. We'll select an alternative POV, and then we'll close out with quotes. There's going to be a bunch of them because it's Jaime being a smartass, so you know that's going to be great. And then we pick a standout appearance, and then we close with theories, which I kind of failed on because I couldn't find the one I was looking for.
All right, so the chapter opens with a celebration at River Run. Ryman is singing, the small folk are dancing, and everyone is having a lovely time.
Your favorite player from last chapter.
I know, right? Except for Kat, who's just received the devastating news of her baby boys being dead. Spoiler alert, they're not, but it still sets a sad tone for the chapter. Kat doesn't feel like celebrating and is stuck having dinner with Brienne, who refuses to just go away. There are some attempts at small talk, and finally Kat just tells Brienne she only has one son left. Brienne is naive to the ways of the world and thinks Cersei will show Kat pity and return the girls, but Kat is smarter than that, and she's sent Jaime wine. Kat goes to spend the rest of the evening with a still dying Hoster until Brienne announces it's time to see Jaime. Jaime looks like shit. The dungeon smells like shit. Really, it might as well just be the shit montage from season 7 for how much it's brought up.
Oh, don't bring that up.
Well, reading the chapter, it's like just ridiculous. Okay. So Jaime assumes Kat is there to take advantage of him, and really, he probably isn't wrong. Anyway, they agree on a quid pro quo. And Kat finally gets confirmation on how and why Bran fell, while Jaime learns his family's alive. Jaime tells Kat the true story of how Brandon and Rickard died, and she is so repulsed that she knows it has to be true. Jaime finally pushes her too far by insulting Ned and bringing up Jon, forcing her to call for Brienne and her sword. I know I left a lot out, but we're going to cover it in quotes. Do you think there's anything that we might not cover?
No, plot-wise, that was it. Because you just said this, it brought this back into memory. So Brienne's story in Clash of Kings ends with someone calling sword, and then her story in, is it Feast or Dance? I can't remember which one is the end
Feast.
Of. Where
Feast.
Her story ends with a fake-out death and her calling for her yelling something.
She yells a word, but I think
right. George R. R. Martin, yeah, he said that she
in
called
an interview.
For sword.
Yes.
That builds on our theory from last episode where George R. R. Martin has run out of ideas.
So he's going back to Clash.
And he's
for
rereading
everything.
A Clash of Kings, and he's been putting bits of A Clash of Kings into the later series. Might be onto something.
If we keep going and that keeps happening, then maybe.
The fandom's going to be like, he's so good of a writer. He writes in all this stuff happened before.
It's all the parallels
so
and it's the tropes.
And it's going to be,
really...
no, the fat man he couldn't think of anything else.
What the fuck is it? Is it Star Wars Episode 7 is like a repeat of 4?
Yeah, like a lot of people are saying
it's like
that.
The same thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, that's funny. We're going to have to keep our eyes open to see what else he's copied from Clash of Kings.
You know how many people are going to argue with us and get mad?
0. Because no one comments on her
Because
shit.
nobody listens to us anyways.
So I think we're safe. All right, so who was your main character of this chapter?
I had it as Cat. I don't know who else it could have been.
It was definitely Jaime Lannister for
Oh,
me.
for fuck's sake. Okay, go ahead.
It's his biggest screen time appearance in this book, and pretty much since the opening chapter of Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
And really, this is his largest bit of conversation and dialogue that he has gotten so far up to this point.
Okay.
A lot of it about his backstory with Ares, which surface level reading, you're like, okay, cool, this is just a what happened kind of sort of thing. But knowing how Jaime becomes a central character moving forward, it starts planting this idea that Jaime isn't quite as much a sarcastic asshole person inside as he portrays outward. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of it is setting up Jaime to be a central character, like I said, going forward. This is the first bit you get, and then everything that you get in the next bit while he's wandering around towards Harrenhal and then King's Landing kind of builds off the breadcrumbs that you get in this conversation here.
So a lot of what you're saying right now is why I picked Jamie for a later point. But for me, I think the reason that Kat stood out the most as the main character, this is where we're finding out about Bran and Rickon. And that's kind of a big deal. Because if you're reading this book through like a regular person would, a person who's not doing shit like we are, at this point you think they're dead. And it's a big deal that they're dead. She's getting this news. And yeah, her whole interaction with Jamie is really fascinating. But ultimately, I feel like Kat is the main point of the chapter.
I thought, and I might be wrong because I'm not reading this in order, like you said, that in Theon's chapter when he's hunting the boys, he can't find them, and that's when Ramsay kind of leads on. Well, you can use these kids, and no one will know.
No, so what happens is Ramsay shows him a sack, and Theon looks in the sack, and that's when he sends away Lewin and the rest of the party. He doesn't say anything. We find out later
Okay,
that what was in the sack was Bran and Rickon's clothes.
okay, so it's a fake out death.
At this point, we think they're legitimately dead,
He does the fake out deaths a lot.
which is why the whole Quentin thing.
Oh no, he's definitely dead, right? George R. R. Martin wouldn't pretend to kill a
I,
character and then bring him back in a later book like Davos.
I don't know anymore.
But fair
I've given
enough.
up.
Okay, if this is the first chapter that we actually kind of air quotes get confirmation that the boys are dead, then fair enough. I would almost like if I was going to argue Catelyn, I would almost argue. I wouldn't almost, but I would argue that it's portraying her personality shift into Stoneheart more so than this is how we hear about the boys. Obviously, hearing about the boys is the catalyst that drives her into it, but that's because there's a gold mine of Stoneheart references here, or
I think there's been
foreshadowing, I guess, since it's not happened yet, so it's not references.
I think there's been a good amount of things in A Clash of Kings that have kind of led to that. Since we know
Yes,
that it's coming,
yeah,
there's been a lot of quotes who kind of describe her as a gray woman and just random things like that that come back when you figure out that it's what happened.
right. So yeah, since this is the cat finale, I suppose I've kind of told you offline how reading the POV straight through, like I haven't been able to pull much out of it. But with pulling these foreshadowings to Stoneheart from reading Cat's chapters just all back to back to back, they really do build and build and build up until this point where there's like 4 or 5 paragraphs where she's thinking, and it's like this is clearly indicating where she's gonna go. And in the beginning in Renly's tent, like there was like that's those small references to like to death and shadows and stuff like that,
Yeah.
which obviously in that point in just the scope of those couple chapters with the shadow baby that you knew was coming, kind of referenced it and you kind of equated to that. But when you look at her chapters through this whole book, you see they kind of hold dual meaning, more or less.
Yeah, and I think that's been something, since this is our kind of cat finale, I think we're fine talking through everything we've gone through.
I'll
There's been a okay, you'll allow it, really? Fuck you.
That's
um
an army thing that we used to say because we were all lieutenants and we couldn't really allow anything, but we would say it to make ourselves feel better.
all right. Anyways, there's been a couple of chapters where not that we've kind of given up, but we're just like this is boring. This was a boring chapter, but when you stack them all up together, it makes for a good storyline for this book.
Yeah, good storyline. It's a very emotional storyline because Kat just gets more depressed as the story goes on, and you definitely start to appreciate what she's going through, and then her decision at the end here to spoiler alert release Jamie. The emotional reasoning behind it, how Kat is just getting not so much fed up, but she's getting more and more desperate to get her daughters back. Because in the beginning, she's worried about Rob, going off and fighting. She's not really thinking about Bran and Rickon because they're back home. She misses them, but they're safe. And
They're safe.
her focus was getting Arya and Sansa back. And then she kind of shifts to still worrying about Rob, but then getting more what's the word I'm looking for? She's losing hope that she's going to get Arya and Sansa. And in the last chapter, she kind of starts thinking Arya's probably dead, and she just wants people to come back. And then in this one, she hears that Rickon and Bran are dead, and that she's sold on the fact that, or not on the fact, but on the idea that Arya's dead, and that Sansa's the last one left, aside
Well, if
from
you
Rob.
take it in comparison to Kat's last chapter in A Game of Thrones, she has that whole speech that she gives to the lords. I think it's right before they crown Rob. Pretty sure it's before, not after.
Right.
How this whole thing is fucking over. Ned is dead. I just want to go home and be happy. Give me my children, and this is done. Let's be done with it. Ned's dead. We're done. And throughout Clash, I think she's coming to the realization of how the game is really played, and that's why she's I don't want to say she's accepting the fact or coming to the terms with that, she's might not ever see Sansa again, but it's where it is. It's what it is.
Yeah, so in the beginning, like she's still kind of operating in this diplomatic sort of envoy capacity, to where she still wants to get her family back, but she realizes that she has a role to play in the war itself, in the political game of it all, and her desire to play that role for Rob deteriorates. That's a word I was thinking of earlier that I couldn't remember. Her hope's been deteriorating the entire book. The longer things stay out of her control, and that's what a lot of this arc is Kat reaching to control something, and she's unable to do it the whole time. It's really sad when you think about it like that.
It is.
And then she's got all these dudes telling her to sit back and that's not your place and you need to stand by here. And anytime she tries to do something, everybody always is like, "Oh, so why is your king hiding behind his mom's skirts?" Because Renly says it. Renly's guys say, or Randall
Tarly.
Tarly says it,
Mm-hmm.
not Renly. Renly's like, "How come he ain't here though?" Jamie says it a couple times, but Jamie's more being an asshole about it. But that kind
Yeah.
of just still builds up in Catelyn because she gets frustrated every time someone does say it. She's like, "What about fucking me? Like I'm the adult here." And that was a long bit for point one.
For that had nothing to do with what we were talking about, really. Yes.
So our next one is what held the biggest influence over Catelyn and why? I changed the wording to what because my answer is not a who.
I've done what before?
Yeah, no. So I thought it was okay to do it. So the quote deaths of Bran and Rickon, I think, was her main motivation. That's what drove her to talk to Jamie in the first place. I don't think she was planning on talking to him or doing anything with him prior to this chapter. In the last chapter, she talks to Cleos Frey, but she doesn't really show any indication or desired motivation to speak to Jamie. And it was the news that her kids were killed, and she was going all out and doing a bad strategic move, but a emotionally motivated move to the prisoner swap, the trade. And that was all entirely motivated by Theon claiming that he killed Brandon Rickon.
Yes.
So if I had to do a
Yes.
who, it was Theon, but the what of it was the death. Because it wasn't really
Okay.
Theon himself. He wasn't influencing him to do anything. It was his action.
Oh my god. Okay, you have to be so technical about it.
I want to get called out in the comments.
So for biggest influence, I had her family overall for the same reason. So I had Bran and Rickon, their death, fine, whatever you want to get technical about it. But then also Sansa and Arya and Ned, basically everybody. Well, and Rob too. Am I missing anybody?
Edmure, Arya, Lysa.
Well, I said Arya, Sansa and Arya. Her immediate family, her husband and her children. At some point, they've all played a part in it for her in this chapter. Bran and Rickon's death, as you said, and then a lot of, I think the motivation beyond Bran and Rickon's death is, well, I guess it goes hand in hand. She's lost her boys, and so all she has left are her girls, and that's why she goes to Jamie. And then the thought of Ned and how Ned would do things, because she brings up the person who passes the sentence should swing the sword type stuff. So I feel like the entire Stark family is what influenced her.
I think you've picked her family as the influence on her for the whole book.
I'd have to go through my notes, but probably.
Yeah, it's not wrong. That's her entire thing. So our next one is knowing how the future plays out. What could the character have done differently to avoid that result? What do you got?
Not free Jamie, which I don't know if that applies since technically it didn't happen. Do we like?
I mean, like it
It's
happened
very
between
ambiguous.
now and Cat One, Storm of Swords, I guess.
Yeah, it still applies because knowing how the future plays out, knowing how Rickard Karstark is going to react, knowing how the rest of the Northmen, the River Run, all of those people, knowing how everybody's going to react to this, she shouldn't have done it. She should have waited for Robb, who probably still would not consent to it because it bad idea. Like, what are the good things that come out of it? Really, she doesn't get Sansa back.
Yeah, no, there's not a whole lot of good things. Like it wasn't like a planned move. It was a distressful emotional reaction for like some last grasp at control of something.
Oh,
Like it wasn't just like I have this plan and this plan is going to work because reason A, B, C, D, E outweigh the cons of A, B, C or whatever. It was fuck it, I'm going to do something.
and we see how that plays out in Storm. So,
Right, it's bad for Rickard Karstark.
and Robb.
Yeah, I mean, kind of.
All the Karstarks leave. That's a good portion of his force.
Yeah, Rob
And
was
then the
going.
Northern Lords are pissed off because he doesn't hold Cat accountable for anything.
Yeah, he's going back up north anyway, so that's fine. No, you have a point. That's a solid point. I said Kat could have told Jamie that Theon killed her sons to see if that evoked any kind of human response from him.
No, he was being an ass. I don't think it would have.
Yeah, I don't know, but it could have.
I think if anything, he may have added to it with, since they were talking about how Bran fell, and if she were to say Theon, got rid of him, killed him, it'd be like, well, he's better off since he was a cripple anyways. I feel like that's the type of response she would have gotten.
Maybe. What about killing Rickon?
That one, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
But
know.
at the same time, does Jamie even give a shit? It's like has he ever cared about his own kids?
Yeah, no, he doesn't care about his kids at all. In the show, he likes Marcella for 10 minutes.
That was so sad. I was so happy for them in
Um,
that moment, and then
yeah.
she
Anyway.
dies.
Yeah, no, I don't. I don't know if it would, but it's something that Catelyn chooses to not admit. And in a chapter where the main thing was a conversation, that's a different route the conversation could have taken. The other thing is she could have killed Jamie,
Then Sansa definitely would have died.
perhaps.
You think Cersei wouldn't have killed her?
Maybe.
You're full of shit.
What do you want to say?
You seriously think Cersei would allow Sansa to live?
I didn't say that. I said maybe.
I feel like it's a definite, not a possibility.
Okay.
All right, so how the events of this chapter affect the other plots or butterfly effect. It's funny looking at my notes because I have number 3, not free Jamie. Number 4, Jamie is set free. Like it's the exact same thing. Yeah, that's how it affects the other plots. Is now Jamie has his own arc to go frolic through the Riverlands trying to get back to King's Landing. I didn't see it really affecting anything else because it's not going to affect the rest of the Lannisters until way later on.
Okay, so we hear for sure here that Rob took the crag, which is the Westerling Castle, which leads to Jane, Westerling,
Or
and all the things and the stuff. And also, we hear the whole Winterfell being sacked thing. That's news that affects Bran and Theon and all that. Quick question. Oh, first, a comment. Proves Cat was absolutely right about not trusting Theon from last book or earlier this book or whichever one it was. I think it was this book,
first
Cat 1.
chapter. Yeah.
Absolutely right. Doesn't get enough credit for it. She could have prevented the fall of Winterfell had Rob
Who
listened
doesn't
to
give
her.
her credit for it?
Nobody gives her credit for anything. They just say she ruins everything. This was Rob. Rob's
You got a
fuck up.
point.
Well, Theon's fuck up, but Theon via Rob, who was ignoring advice from Catelyn. Just saying.
Yes.
Rob would have listened to Cat when she was like, pick fucking anybody else. Literally anyone else.
The great John.
And Rob was like, I'm going to send the one person who could fuck this all up. Also, how come no one ever thinks about Theon
Why would anybody ever think about Theon?
because Rob's like, we're gonna send Theon to Pike, and then he's gonna get the Greyjoys on our side. All right,
Oh,
Theon.
nobody ever has any updates? Is that
See
what
you
you're talking
later.
about?
See you later, dude. And then it's been how many fucking months, and no one's like, hey, whatever happened to Theon? What's going on? Pike's like a day that way. Like, figure we would have heard something by now. But in goddamn 7 chapters, no one stops to think what happened to this fucking dude. I thought that was
They
weird.
thought Balon would kill him. No, you have a good point. It definitely is.
It was bad writing.
I don't think Theon is smart enough for it to happen, but he could have sent fake ravens.
Seems like that would have been an important piece of strategy for someone to think about.
Maybe they weren't keeping Cat in the circle of communication.
But with all the battle reports from last chapter, with all the minor skirmishes on the river, also Catelyn makes a point of passing crucial information last chapter about Stannis moving to King's Landing, but no one gets an update about this potential Greyjoy alliance.
What I deem as significant and you deem as significant is different than what other people deem as significant.
I don't know why you're making excuses here. It's a plot hole. Someone should have thought of something.
I'm not making excuses.
Yeah, you're saying that
I'm playing devil's advocate.
The characters didn't think it necessary to think about it when, for some reason, it's a thing that's ignored.
I'm not saying they didn't think it necessary to think about it. I'm saying maybe they didn't think it necessary to share that information with Kat. Not everybody held her in high regard to want to share information with her. Yeah, she got a lot of information from Edmure and things like that.
That is not a good reason to me.
Oh my goodness, fine. I agree with you on the point that somebody should have brought it up at some point, like what the fuck's, what's the progress on this? But I could see ways around it.
I don't see any reason that they wouldn't tell Kat about it. Being she's also part of the alliance making group.
She's the mother. She was also gone. She was with Stannis and Rennie.
Whoa. Stannis and Rennie?
She was with Stannis
Is that
and Rennie.
your pet names for them?
Jesus Christ. What if they got a raven while she was out there and they didn't think it was a huge deal? Because it was like Theon saying, hey, talking to my dad, we'll let you know what happens.
If that is your hardcore reasoning, I say that's weak.
I'm not fighting for it either way. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Well, you're devil advocating very, very hard.
Whatever.
It's bad. Our next one is alternative point of view. Easy one here. It's got to be Jaime, right?
I was trying to not do that because it was the easy one, so I chose Brienne. But really, Jaime would be the better one, obviously.
We don't need to bog down a Clash of Kings with the Brienne chapter.
You don't like her chapters in Feast?
No.
Well, she is kind of stupid and repetitive. I'm looking for a maid of 3 and 10.
Yeah, she's... I understand the point of Brienne is to show the devastation of war in the Riverlands and how it's affected all the little people, and I get it. Uninteresting to me. The Maribald piece and the Quiet Isle, I get that. I get her killing the dude at Cracklaw Point. It was a big moment for her because the first time she kills him. I understand the importance of Brienne's chapters. I find them a trudge. And please God, don't let us do POV by POV for A Feast for Crows, because that is going to be some slow moving chapters, and they'll be all 20-minute podcasts by then.
Okay, well, I love Feast, so...
Oh yeah, I like Feast too, but not for Brienne. I like him for Jaime and Cersei.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else?
Arianne.
Oh yeah, well she has like 3 chapters. But yeah, that whole thing down there with Aerys.
It's a good story.
Yeah. I do
well,
like
and
that.
Aerys Oakheart and
Ironborn. Ironborn is the
Ironborn's the other one. Yeah, so it's Dorne and the Ironborn and the Lannisters and Brienne by herself.
What if we just skip it and never do the Brienne chapter?
How much of the story would we miss if we didn't include her chat? That's really fucked up, man. Yeah, I picked her because I didn't want to go with the easy choice of Jaime, but yes, Jaime is obviously the better choice.
Yeah, I picked Jaime because on top of all the sarcastic things that he speaks, we know from his other chapters he has a bunch of sarcastic, funny things that he also thinks that he doesn't say, and that would have made the chapter more fun. Even though it's supposed to be very depressing and set the mood as being very sad and oh no, things are falling down.
No, yeah, and another reason why I kind of justified it for myself in not choosing him was the fact that he was very forthcoming So, we know he's not lying to Cat, so I don't think there'd be any alternative thoughts in his head. There might be some additional jabs he takes in his head, but for the main part, we'd get the same conversation.
Right. And we wouldn't get that through Brienne. So our next bit that you guys know is quotes. So my first bit on quotes is that we have intense Stoneheart foreshadowing. Our first part here, it says, this is Catelyn's inner thoughts. I am become a sour woman, Catelyn thought. I take no joy in mead nor meat. In song and laughter have become suspicious strangers. I am a creature of grief and dust and bitter longings. There is an empty place within me where my heart was once. That was our first setting there. It's like, oh yeah, I see where this is coming. A creature of grief.
Hearing you read that, it totally makes sense, but when I read it, I didn't even pick up on that.
Creature of grief. That's yeah, that was pretty straightforward to me. Stark popped out of the page. On the next page, this is when Brienne asks or says that Cersei might take pity. And Catelyn says, "Send my daughters back unharmed." Catelyn smiled sadly. "There was a sweet innocence about you, child. I could wish, but no. Robb will avenge his brothers." And here's the part. Ice can kill as dead as fire. And that one kind of jumped out at me. And then she started talking about ice, Ned's greatsword. And then later on in the same passage, she says, "Ned always said that the man who passes the sentence should swing the blade, though he never took any joy in the duty. But I would." Like, oh, well, yeah, there's her revenge mantra that you see later on. So she's talking about Sansa, how she was when she was younger, and then how Arya was when she was younger. She says, "I think she, Arya, must be dead too." When she said that, it felt as though a giant hand were squeezing her chest. "I want them all dead, Brienne. Theon Greyjoy first, then Jaime Lannister, and Cersei in the end. Everyone. Everyone." Feeds
Every
also
fucking one.
into her revenge mantra.
Yes.
Interesting too that she's, if you want to get a little extra meta with it, she's saying this to Brienne, and in the end she starts to include Brienne in that everyone sort of kind of thing.
Do you ever think we'll get a Stoneheart POV?
No.
Or she's dead, she's done?
Yeah, I don't think we're getting a Stoneheart POV at all. And then the last one for my Stoneheart foreshadowing, it says, "I keep remembering the stark words. Winter has come, Father, for me, for me." And again, that's all those compiled together within, at least on my ebook here, within 3 pages. It was like, do you get it?
Dead vengeance, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 of the passages you spoke about, I had marked down. The one about Arya, where she's thinking she's dead. So before what you started talking about, and Arya, well, Ned's visitors would often mistake her for a stable boy if they rode into the yard unannounced. Arya was a trial, it must be said. Half a boy and half a wolf pup. I just really hate the way she talks about Arya. Like in the paragraph before, she's praising Sansa. Sansa is such a lady, and she's so beautiful. She's going to be prettier than me. Just because Arya was a tomboy, I just don't like the way she talks about her.
So you took this whole thing as, gosh, I really can't stand Arya?
No, I took it as there's definite favoritism of one daughter over the other.
I see it as her fondly remembering how Arya used to be so different.
Seriously?
Yeah, because she's worried about her kids dying and she thinks Arya's dead. So she's not like, Arya could be dead. I mean, she wasn't like Sansa at all. I mean, she was just such a trial. And
well, I don't.
She would look like a boy and had a long, ugly face, and people would think she was like a stable boy because she was so ugly. No, that's not it at all.
I'm not taking it to that degree, but I just feel like
but you are.
It's not fair. Fine, whatever. Okay, moving on.
Well, that's...
You're not gonna like this next one either. So the same thing. Ned always said the man who passes the sentence should swing the blade. That's not what Ned says. Ned says swing the sword. She didn't pay attention to what her husband was saying.
Oh, really? That's your nitpick?
Yes, that's my nitpick. To go back to my she never loved him.
I want to cut that quote out of the podcast.
I did that on purpose, yes.
Such a bad take. So when she tells Brienne that her kids could be dead, Brienne is trying to console her. She's like, "There's no words, my lady, my good lady. Your sons, they're with the gods now." And Catelyn just fucking gets triggered. She says, "Are they? And what god would let this happen?" So she's questioning her gods and like, why would they allow something like this to happen? Because Rickon's a boy. Why did he deserve it? Where is it out there? Yeah, Rickon was only a baby. How could he deserve such a death? And then, if we fast forward a couple pages and a couple hours, she's talking to Jaime. Jaime says, "You think I fear death?" She says, "You should. Your crimes have earned you a place of torment in the deepest of the seven hells, if the gods are just." And Jaime says, "And what gods are those? The trees your husband prayed to? How well do they serve him? If there are gods, why is the world so full of pain and injustice?" So that's pretty much the exact same thing that Catelyn was saying to Brienne earlier. Brienne was
Yeah.
trying to use the gods as like a tool of comfort, I suppose. And Catelyn kind of scoffs at that idea. And Jaime comes over here and Catelyn's saying that he should fear or regret his actions because of the punishment of the gods. And he's like, fuck gods, are they going to, like, what gods? What are they going to do?
Yeah.
Like, why do the gods, like, inflict, like, why would they let something happen like this? So I thought that was pretty interesting, how they both said the same thing, and Catelyn is on both sides of it.
I'm
So
assuming
a
you
couple
have.
of these kind of just stand out to me because they're sarcastic and they deserve to be recognized. So Catelyn says, "I see you had no taste for the wine I sent you." Such a sudden generosity seemed somewhat suspect, Jaime replies. Cat says, "I can have your head off any time I want. Why would I need to poison you?" Then Jaime goes, "Death by poison can seem natural. Harder to claim that my head simply fell off." Thought that was funny.
I'm sure we could find a way to make a head fall off.
Harder to explain.
Not the point. I know.
And then shortly later on, Jaime says, "I didn't invite you to sit, but your brother has neglected to provide me a chair." Cat says, "I can stand well enough." He goes, "Can you? You look terrible."
I know that's
I
fucked
must
up.
say, perhaps it's just the light in here, though. And Jaime looks like shit, and then he's still like, "Cat, you look rough. You wanna sit?" Hilarious. So Cat says, "You brought this on yourself. We granted you the comfort of a tower cell befitting your birth and station. You repaid us by trying to escape." Jaime says, "A cell is a cell. Some under Casterly Rock make this one seem like a sunlit garden. One day, perhaps, I'll show you them.
I'll show them to you.
I'll show them to you." Anyway, I thought that was
Nice
funny
thread.
too.
Yes. Does your special little ebook have any annotations on putting people in cells based on their station?
Nope,
Is that a real thing? Do you know if that's a real thing?
in the book it is. But in real life, I imagine you do treat your high value hostage prisoners better than your
Better than.
peasant prisoners. My next one's on the next page. This kind of feeds into what I was saying earlier. Jaime says, "If there are gods, why is the world so full of pain and injustice?" Catelyn says, "Because of men like you." And then Jaime says his famous quote, "There are no men like me. There's only me." And
I was gonna let you have that one.
I love that one. This is after he admits to pushing Bran out the window. He's like, "Hey, you can blame the gods for it." And she says, "Blame the gods? Yours was the hand that threw him. You meant for him to die." Jaime says, "I seldom fling children from towers to improve their health. Yes, I meant for him to die."
Like no shit.
Cruel, ice cold, but I kind of chuckled.
Yeah.
I did. He's not saying good things. He's
He
being an
doesn't give a
asshole here,
shit.
but they're funny. The next one I have is So Many Vows.
Yeah, I knew you would want that one too.
Will you talk on this podcast instead of it just being me the whole time?
Well, because you've used these lines before to like prove points on other things like in our group, and so I was just gonna let you have them.
Okay, so Jaime reached for the flagon to refill his cup. So many vows, they make you swear and swear. Defend the king, obey the king, keep his secrets, do his bidding, your life for his. But obey your father, love your sister, protect the innocent, defend the weak, respect the gods, obey the laws. It's too much. No matter what you do, you're forsaking one vow or the other. Took a healthy swallow of wine and closed his eyes for an instant, leaning his head back against the patch of nitre on the wall. I was the youngest man ever to wear the white cloak, and the youngest to betray all it stood for, Kingslayer. Kingslayer, pronounced carefully. And such a king he was, he lifted his cup. To Aerys Targaryen, the second of his name, Lord of the Seven Kingdoms and protector of the realm, and to the sword that opened his throat. A golden sword, don't you know? Until his blood ran red down the blade. Those are the Lannister colors, red and gold. Very strong quote. This so many vows part is what I was talking about earlier with the breadcrumbs that begin that allow the reader to begin to understand Jaime's inner conflict whenever he was in the Kingsguard. He gets into it a little bit more when he's talking about Hightower and everything like that, and then especially in A Feast for Crows when he remembers Shauna Thornberry. But this is that first bit where he's talking about the conflicting vows, and because in this scenario he's being a dickhead about it all, you're thinking he's kind of just like saying fuck all of them, like what does it matter? But it's not until later where you hear or where you start to understand that he actually had I don't want to say a true crisis of character, but he definitely started seeing the hypocrisy of doing one thing while ignoring the other, which then led him to make his decision to kill Ares.
Yeah, and which is why, like, you already brought it up with Hightower, a couple pages later, and he's talking about how everything went down and how Hightower told him, "You swore a vow to guard the king, not to judge him." And that's while Jaime is kind of having, we don't know what kind of thoughts he's having yet, but that's during the whole situation where Rickard and Brandon are dying. And so if you read into that, obviously something was happening that Jaime didn't agree with, and that's why Gerald Hightower felt the need to tell him, you swore a vow, you're not here to judge him, you're here to do your job, basically.
Yeah, it definitely requires looking deeper in. Never thought of it like that. I mean, I knew Jaime did have the inner conflict, but the fact that Hightower noticed something about it where he had to be like, "Hey, dude, hey, look at me.
Look at me. Don't look at that. Look at me."
Don't fucking worry about this. Not your fucking job, dude.
Yeah.
You promised to protect the crazy person, not to stop him from killing innocent people," which really makes you look side-eyed at Gerald Hightower like, what the fuck are you saying, dude? The next quote I have is the details of the trial by combat, quote unquote. So Jamie's asking if Catelyn knew how they died. And she's like, killed? Yeah, no. He's like, killed how? Catelyn says, the cord of the axe, I suppose, thinking they were hung or beheaded. Jaime said, no doubt Ned wished to spare you. So we hear from, I think it's a Bran chapter, that
Yep.
what they were just beheaded or something like that.
Yeah, that Ares beheaded them, yes. And we were like, oh, he messed up or whatever. No, well,
Right,
it
yeah.
makes
So
sense then.
it's clear now that Ned didn't tell anyone what actually happened. And so where we talk shit about Bran, like, oh, stupid fucking, like, why is Ned lying to? But Ned, for obvious reasons, I guess, didn't want to tell people, oh, yeah,
To
no, your
protect the children.
grandfather was suspended in the middle of the hall and then burned alive in his armor while
While
your
your
Uncle
uncle
Brandon, the guy that
killed
you're
himself
named
to trying to
after,
save him, yes.
yeah. So it wasn't a writing error. It was just Ned being like, they died. He killed them.
Which was a good thing on Ned's part.
Yeah, so that fixed the continuity here. Were there deaths detailed in the Game of Thrones? Like, do we know that he was suspended and burned and choked to death by a torture chamber contraption? I was wondering if this was something that George fixed. Like, if he didn't specify details in the first book, so now he's like, I'll make it seem worse. And this is why, Bran didn't know the full thing last chapter. I don't know, but
I'll probably look it up again, but I'm pretty sure.
right. Either way, it explains why Bran thought one thing and what actually happened, so that's fine.
Okay, so something that stood out to me. So Jamie's talking about how Brandon rode into the Red Keep with a few companions, and Kat says Ethan Glover was Brandon's squire. He was the only one to survive. The others were Jeffrey Mallister, Kyle Royce, and Albert Aaron, John Aaron's nephew and heir. So I thought it was weird because none of those people are Northmen.
Glover
Like,
is.
who?
Glover?
Oh, well, Glover is, yes, sorry. But Mallister, Royce, and Aaron, Mallister's Riverlands, Royce and Aaron are in the Vale. So is this part of Rickard's Southern Ambitions plan? That they're
Probably.
all friends?
So I imagine because Brandon was already going back and forth between the Riverlands and the North because he was courting Catelyn, fair to say that Mallister, who they were all heirs, right?
Yeah. They're
First of
all
all,
on
it makes sense that
that
all the
level.
next in lines are also in on it too. So all their dads are in on it, all their kids are
Yeah.
friends too, and they have their own little cool kids club and
Okay.
whatnot. And Aaron being there makes sense too because Ned was already being fostered at the Erie. We know Lyanna went and visited him. It's not crazy to think that Brandon went and hung out for a little bit too. So I'm okay with all that.
Okay.
Interesting part of that is that Ethan Glover survived.
And now that you point out that he's from the north, the one Northman survived. Was
Yeah,
there any significance to that?
no idea, because he died at the Tower of Joy.
Did he? Was he one of the ones that went?
Yeah, I have a little annotation.
Oh.
Ethan Glover would die at the Tower of Joy at the war's end after accompanying Arik Stark to face the three knights of the Kingsguard. Or so his dream would let us believe. But yeah, it doesn't make sense why they kept one alive. I mean, because killing a Royce, killing an Aaron, killing a Stark, three powerful families. If
Yeah.
if it was Glover and Malister that both survived, like, okay, they didn't kill the little people, but they killed Malister, so maybe Malister was smart enough, I guess. And Glover was a bitch.
I don't know. It just seems weird. And also with the whole trials thing, Jamie brings up that the other men didn't have trials. Like they were just basically executed. So why was everybody and their father murdered except for Ethan Glover? But then why also was Rickard Karstark given trial by combat? Did none of the other lords request a trial by combat? Because they should have known in that court with Ares they weren't going to get a fair trial.
Oh, well, their kids died.
Yeah.
Or the fathers died too, except,
Yeah.
yeah, they all died.
That's what I'm saying. Why was Rickard the only one granted a trial by combat? Was he the only one that requested it?
Oh, it's the only one that's singled out. Maybe Rickard was the last one. Like the first trial could have been Ares going, I judge you guilty. And then he hung Malister. And then Aaron could have been like, I want an actual real trial. And it was three pyromancers and Varys and Ares. And he, like, I don't know.
Okay.
They could have all requested trials. I don't know. Yeah, it's never specified. Probably because who cares about Glover's dad?
Who's his dad?
Exactly.
Okay.
Some dead guy. And then my final quote from Jamie is all the way at the end. Catelyn says, I find nothing about you amusing, Kingslayer. Jamie says, that name again. I don't think I'll fuck you after all. Littlefinger had you first, didn't he? I'd never eat up another man's trencher. Besides, you're not half so as lovely as my sister. His smile cut. I've never lain with any woman but Cersei. In my own way, I have been truer than your Ned ever was. Poor old dead Ned. So who has shit for honor now, I ask you? What was the name of that bastard he fathered? Cutting quote right there. Hard.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
And then it gets funny. What was the name of that bastard he fathered? Catelyn took a step back. Brienne. No, that wasn't it.
Was he drunk enough to where he thought that that was happening?
I don't know. Snow, that was the one. Such a white name. Like the pretty cloaks they give us in the Kingsguard when we swear our pretty oaths. And then Brienne steps in. She says, give me your sword.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. So, we're on to standout appearances.
I think it's pretty obvious who the standout is. No?
Yeah.
Yes? No?
Yeah, it's Jamie.
Jamie? Okay.
And for obvious reasons, so it's not a whole lot to talk about there because we've already gushed over Jamie for a while. But also, I put on here for Gerald Hightower because hearing this quote from him, and then later on the Jonathan or Derry quote, and this wasn't when I first read it. This wasn't just now. This was a while ago, where I decided that I hated Gerald Hightower and all the other Kingsguard who were
Yes.
hypocritical stand-byers that didn't do anything and let this all happen. Well, fuck Gerald Hightower, piece of shit.
Well, wait, so to go back to Jamie, I had him marked down because whatever else, but he fits since people like to talk about tropes. Actually, don't people try to point out that George goes against tropes and he breaks tropes and whatever the fuck a trope is?
Subverting a trope. A trope is a trend.
What the fuck ever. Jamie is the asshole with a heart of gold. We don't know that now, but that's what he is. Right now, we just know he's an asshole.
Heart of gold?
You don't think so?
No.
You don't think he has good intentions overall?
Well, that's different than having a heart of gold.
How?
Heart of gold means like you're a bastion of good things. And that you're always doing the right thing and you're always looking out for everybody. And a beacon of shining light of hope and goodness. Not really what I associate with Jamie.
If that's what it means, then no.
I mean, you can have a different definition of it. Heart of gold is in like you do some kind of shady shit sometimes, and you're trying to be a better person, but you're also still some kind of threatened to launch babies from a catapult.
I did not know what a trebuchet was. I had to Google that. I didn't know what that word was. So when he was
You
saying
thought
he
it was
was
like
gonna,
a baby basket or a
well,
stroller,
I
and
didn't
it's like,
know
oh,
what was.
how
I'm like, this
nice.
doesn't make any sense. Like he's gonna do what with the kid?
He's gonna bring him up in a nice little pony pulled carriage. Oh, you mean he
Yeah, I
means
had no idea what was happening.
a piece of siege artillery? That's not good. How's a baby gonna survive that? Why would he? He said he's gonna kill his baby. A heart
Well,
of
that's why I was like, what
a
does
heart of
that
gold.
mean? He wasn't gonna do. Do you really think he would do it?
Uh, he does like people who have this trait don't threaten it.
Okay. Theories.
No, 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 no. We're not moving forward yet. We haven't talked about how shitty Gerald Hightower is yet.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
But yeah, so he's the leader of the most noble brotherhood of knights, and at least under the reign of Ares, and then you can make the arguments for other kings before him that were just as bad, like Maegor and that one dude,
You going all the way back to
Dragon Knight.
Maegor? Aemon the Dragon Knight?
Follow what I'm saying here. So he's the leader of the greatest group of good guys in Westeros. That's what this
Okay.
position of Lord Commander is. And we see through Hightower being this hypocritical dude, or not following his vow to protect the weak and the innocent and all that other stuff,
Yes.
which then sheds an entire light of hypocrisy on the Kingsguard itself when you look at how many bad kings there were that still had Kingsguard that were loyal to them. Going back as far as Maegor the Cruel, who was a dickhead,
Okay. Okay. Now I see what you're
and
saying.
Aegon IV, the fat asshole. And
Yeah.
he have Dragon Knight was with him, right?
Yeah, that's his brother.
Right.
And he had one of the Kingsguard killed for sleeping with one of his mistresses.
Right, yeah, so that Kingsguard is an asshole. You see the current Kingsguard too, Boris Blunt and Meryn Trant,
Meryn Trant.
and
Basically anybody that hits Sansa is a
there's a
fucking
bunch.
dick.
Right, and you even get Eris Oakheart, who Sansa even mentioned. She's like, I liked him the best because at least when he hit me, he looked like he didn't want to.
He didn't hit me hard.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and it's like this is supposed to be like the ultimate knight group, and you see
Mm-hmm.
throughout history, and then even back then under Ares, and even now, they're all a bunch of assholes.
Yeah.
And Jamie was the one person who was like, no, screw this. This is bullshit. And I'm going to kill the king because he's an asshole. But yeah, the quote from Hightower here, and then later we see Jonathan Derry share the same sentiment, just makes me not like them. Barristan shares a certain amount of that blame. We've talked about it before how Barristan's crowning achievement was the worst thing he could have possibly done with jumping into Duskendale and saving him by himself. But yeah, so these guys do some of the worst things they can to help these bad kings when they were better off just not doing that.
But
You
they didn't know that at the time.
didn't know what.
Like Barristan, he didn't know what the fuck Ares was going to be after Duskendale. Prior to Duskendale, it was said that he was a good king. He didn't go crazy until after.
He was still not good then because that's why Tywin was willing to let him die. It wasn't just out of jealousy and rivalry. He was like, we got a better king in Rhaegar right now because Ares is kind of off his rocker.
Okay. But he wasn't like the worst possible thing at that point.
Right, he wasn't Maegor. He wasn't completely unhinged, and he definitely went off after that. But you think that's what that's part of this whole criticism of the feudal society that George is always writing about that we hear people talk about all the time? How it's
The blind loyalty?
yeah, the blind loyalty, like how you swear to do everything by this guy, and if that one guy's a dickhead, then you're kind of stuck, and then no one ever does anything because they put more weight into this vow they swore than what's actually the right thing.
It's more important to hold to these vows. Well, no, it's more, yeah.
Yeah, it's more
But
important
you're
to
not
hold on to
really
this.
holding to your vow. You can't fulfill your vow, but if you break it, it's worse than actually being chivalrous. Does that make sense?
Yeah, they're placing the loyalty to the king and the protector of the king ahead of everything else,
Ahead of the actual words of their vows.
or just ahead of the other vows itself. When sometimes that shouldn't be the most important one. But again, when you have a good king, like for example, Aegon,
Jaehaerys.
Aegon One, or Jaehaerys, or any of the other ones that weren't morons, then you could take that first one, protect the king, obey the king, take that one fine. But when you get these douchebags, it's not something that should be first and foremost.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's all I got on that.
Theories?
So, Jamie says at the end, I will say, I think it passing odd that I am loved by one for a kindness I never did, and reviled by so many for my finest act. So, this comes on the heels where he's talking about Hightower. He said he's filling his head with thoughts of Cersei, and then Gerald Hightower pulled him aside. Catelyn's like, you want to make me think that you killed him to avenge Brandon Stark? And he's like, I don't give a fuck about them. And then he says that. So, the context of it's in place. His vilest act, or reviled by so many for his greatest act, was obviously killing Ares.
Yeah.
And then the question is, what is he referring to when he says I am loved by one for a kindness I never did?
That's why I always ask that.
Yeah. So now we have
I
a
don't
chance to
get it.
talk about it.
Okay, fine.
So what do you
Sorry.
think?
I don't think it doesn't make any sense to me when people say it's talking about Tyrion because this chapter has nothing to do with Tyrion. I'm very confused.
Jamie's also drunk, so.
Because people always bring it back to Tyrion loves Jamie because of Tysha, and that makes no fucking sense to me whatsoever.
How does it not make sense? So
I don't.
the relation to it is Tywin set the whole thing up, and Jamie was in on it. So Jamie's job was to chase off the robbers to get Tyrion to hook up with Tysha. And Tyrion thinks that the kindness he did was help him
getting him
save.
A hooker?
No, because Tyrion thinks the kindness Jamie did was protecting the girl so that Tyrion could save her and do something, or just save her and have that opportunity to interact with her. When really it was a setup. The robbers weren't trying to kill Tysha at all. And then the only other way that, setting that aside, the only other thing I can think of is if he's talking about Cersei. I'm loved by one for a kindness I never did. You can take that to mean he is loved by Cersei for fathering her children, but he's not a father to him.
Okay, that one makes more sense to me than the Tyrion one.
But Cersei doesn't really love him.
Yeah, she loves him for what she sees in him of herself.
Right. Jamie probably does think she loves him, though, so that could be it.
Yeah.
So it's one or the other.
I still don't understand the Tyrion thing, and I don't know if I ever will understand it. That's why I've had so many people try to explain it to me, and it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't get it.
Because he wasn't being kind to Tyrion when he did it. But Tyrion thinks he was. So that's why it's a kindness.
That doesn't make sense to me. Tyrion doesn't know. Tyrion thinks that Tysha was a prostitute, so why would he be happy with what Jamie did? Why would he love him for that?
Because he saved her, and that allowed Tyrion to hang out with her, and then Tyrion fell in love with her. So if Jamie didn't fight off the bad guys, then that would never have happened. And that was Tyrion's greatest, or like the happiest that Tyrion's ever been.
Yes, but Tyrion thinks Tysha was a prostitute, so why would that make him happy?
Because they got married, and like Tyrion thought this was like going to be his wife and family and everything.
Yeah, and that only lasted for like a week.
And then, well, yeah, until the whole plot was revealed.
It's okay. It's just hard for me to wrap my mind around that. I don't know.
Is that you got to get past Tyrion thinks he's just trying to get his dick sucked by this girl, because that's not it. He's not just like, oh, cool, a prostitute. Jamie, get these guys away so I can get her.
No, I've never said that's not what I was saying at all.
You said Tyrion thought she was a prostitute.
No, Tyrion. Well, I'm saying think because we know now that she wasn't, but Tyrion, as of this point in the story, is under the assumption that his wife was a prostitute.
Well, yeah, because Tywin made his army rape her and pay her.
Exactly. So that's why to me it doesn't match in my head because Tyrion thinks Tysha was a whore. So why would he love Jamie for that? If anything, he should hate Jamie for that.
He doesn't know Jamie
setting him up to get his heart broken.
He doesn't know that. Tyrion didn't know that Jamie was in on it.
He doesn't?
No.
I don't remember. I'm going to have to look this up. Because I feel like... Are you sure Jamie was... Oh, fucking hell.
Yep.
Man, whatever.
Positive.
Okay. She wasn't a whore. So you're saying that Jamie set up two guys to fake rob her so Tyrion could go make a friend?
No. Tywin set it up and made Jamie do it.
What book is this in?
Storm?
I'm going to have to look it up.
It's gotta be in Storm.
Well, yeah, because Storm is when it all comes out.
And don't they talk about it in Tyrion's flight? Because Jaime sees him and frees him.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's the scene where Jamie went down to go free him from the cells, and then Tyrion goes and kills Tywin.
Right.
But that's when they have
And
that discussion about Tysha.
Tyrion kills him because Jaime spills the beans. It's like, hey, should have told you.
And adding insult to injury, he finds Shay, who is another woman that he loved, quote unquote. And and that's when he's asking, where do whores go?
Mm-hmm. So you
So yeah.
understand now.
No, I don't at all.
All right.
I think I need to like write it out or something. It
I'm sure
just
there's detailed posts and essays on the internet about it. I believe it's about Tyrion, but just because he mentioned Cersei earlier in the paragraph and in the conversation, I was like, oh, maybe it could mean this. I don't know if George R. R. Martin's been asked about it and if he's confirmed anything.
Do you have anything else for theories?
No.
So that wraps up Cat.
A very sad arc, a very emotionally deteriorating journey she went on. I don't think anything she did worked. The first one is her trying to influence Rob's foreign policy, and Rob doesn't listen to her. And
She
then she goes
she
to
tries to
Renly,
bring
and
the
that doesn't
brothers
work.
together. Yeah.
She goes to Stannis, that doesn't work. She goes back to Renly, and that doesn't work because he dies. And then,
Edmure's plan works. She tries to talk him out of that, and that he still does it. So yeah, she's kind of beaten down this entire book.
yep,
Poor Cat.
she's pretty much solely focused on a quick resolution and getting her family back together. And at the end, she thinks three of them are dead,
And none of them are.
and none of them are. That makes it
Yay.
worse
How does that make it worse?
because, like, her mental state is in really bad, and everything that it makes it go in the shitter is not true. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it.
That makes it more tragic. So yeah, everybody needs to stop lying to Kat. Littlefinger lied to her a lot in the first book, and then now everyone's lying to her in this book, and in the next book things just get worse. Everybody gets mad at her, and then they kill her,
Everybody dies.
and then she comes back from the dead, and she's like, "I'm killing all you motherfuckers."
Everyone.
And then everybody's like, "Oh, Kat, no, have mercy. Think maybe there's another way we can get by that." No, that's what I was trying to say when I was alive, but y'all want to keep fighting, so yeah, let's fucking fight. You're done. You're gonna die now,
We're gonna do it your way.
right?
My way didn't work.
That's basically what Stoneheart is. Stoneheart is just fuck this shit. I'm so over talking to you people.
She's blind vengeance, and that's why I don't like her.
Right? Yeah, it's bad, but I understand the
Where
route.
she's coming from.
Yeah, I understand the route that took her there.
Yeah, and I'm starting to see that, with the way we read this.
How do you kill Stoneheart? How does she get removed from the story? Because she's
She's
dead.
got to give someone the kiss of life. Because that's how Barrack stopped coming back. He gave up his life to bring her. So she's got
Well,
to give up her life for somebody.
well, Barrick kept coming back because Thoros kept bringing it back, but there's no one to. Well, Thoros is.
Thoros is with her. And to me, I got the vibe that Thoros wasn't happy with how she was running the Brotherhood. So I'm really hoping he splits off.
Hmm.
Because he talks about we were king's men, we were better men. And to me, it's kind of like he accepts the fact of he is where he is, and they don't have a mission anymore. Now they do her bidding. They aren't, out to protect the small folk anymore. They just do kill people because she says, "Oh, that's a fray, kill him."
So my idea, I don't know if you've talked about it on the thing, probably not because we don't have reason to. But my idea is that as Barrick keeps coming back more and more, and this could also be just because he keeps dying, but he loses a bit more of himself and he becomes grimmer in his own attitude anyway.
Yes.
I think it's because of who keeps reviving him. I think it's because of Thoros. So when Thoros sets out, they're all like, we're king's men, we're doing the king's justice, we're doing the good thing. And then they die. Or, they lose men, so they pull back. And then the Starks, like, he keeps talking about the lions and the wolves. Stark people, some of the Northern Army, are doing just as much of the bad shit as the Lannister army is. And Thoros is kind of pissed about that because y'all aren't supposed to be the ones doing this. And then more and more bad shit keeps happening. The Riverlands is just torn up. There's innocent people displaced and killed and everything like that. And Thoros is getting more and more frustrated and angry that their mission isn't working. And he keeps reviving Barrick, and Barrick keeps getting like I said, grimmer and less nice, and he can't remember things of his past. And then the Red Wedding happens, and then they find Catelyn, and Thoros is in the worst mood that he's been in since we've met the guy, because things are just really, really bad. And then he revives, and then Beric passes on to Cat, which is more or less Thoros via Beric to Cat. And now Cat's mood, or not mood, I guess, but Stoneheart's attitude and personality is almost a direct reflection of how I imagine Thoros is right now. Just being grim and full of revenge and wanting to lash out and everything like that. Stoneheart has her own targets in mind, but the motivation behind that, I think, held up by the vessel of her revival, which is Thoros.
You and I have never talked about that ever.
I've commented on it in the group.
Okay, well, I didn't read it then.
And then the relation to that is if Mel revives Jon, if Jon is going to be more like Mel, all R'hllori.
Lori.
Or light, night is dark, full of dirt. That kind of sort of thing.
I don't know. I just like the thought of Beric is constantly coming back less and less of himself because it's almost like the Horcruxes of Harry Potter. His soul's being torn again and again every time he's coming back.
Harry Potter
So I
reference
prefer that.
for Beric, I get it. Yeah, I mean, I could be entirely wrong. But how do you think Stoneheart dies? She can still be killed.
Can she? Well, you're right. She can. I was like, can she? Yeah, she can be killed, and just Thoros doesn't bring her back. Well, Brienne's got Jaime, so they're gonna have a scene together. Jaime, Brienne, and Stoneheart. Jaime is not as great of a swordman as he used to be, obviously. So it's not like he can cut through the entire Brotherhood and try to kill her. But even then, with his character development, that's what I was gonna say. With his character development, I don't think there's any reason for him to want to kill Cat. I don't know how she would die. I can't think of anybody who would take her down.
I'm definitely against, and I am a denier of this whole Stoneheart goes north and helps Jon rule Winterfell thing.
Helps him rule Winterfell?
Yeah, like she has
That's a thing?
Yeah, she has Rob's will, and she will travel up there to the wall and leave the will out and give him the kiss of life and give her life for Jon's so that he can read a paper that says, "Oh, I'm Rob's heir."
I really hope that doesn't happen. I don't want that to happen. It's really stupid. I don't like it.
I don't think. First of all, Cat doesn't at all, but Stoneheart doesn't care who rules Winterfell because she thinks all of her kids are dead. So she probably doesn't give a shit what's going on up there. She wants to kill people who kill her family. Right now, she's starting with the phrase. So whatever
The only reason why
will she might have, she probably doesn't have it still.
The only reason why I can see her going even farther north is just if she eliminates like all of the Freys that are in the Riverlands and she decides to move north to get Roose himself. That's the only way I can see her continuing to move north. Otherwise, what's the point?
Or Theon.
She just stay in the Riverlands.
Yeah, she'll stay
Theon.
to kill the Freys, and then she'll either move north to get the Greyjoy or stay down there to kill Cersei because she wants Theon.
No one ever talks about that, about her going south.
Well, first, she said this in this chapter. Theon Greyjoy first.
Stoneheart.
Well, I know, but Catelyn said, I want them all dead. Theon Greyjoy first, then Jaime Lannister, then Cersei, and the Imp, and want them all dead. So obviously she's not starting with Theon because she's killed Merritt, at least.
I was just gonna say, because if our first interaction with her in Winds is through Jaime, unless I don't see her killing Jaime, because then I feel like Jaime's an important part to the story, or maybe he's not, and I just like him. But that goes against her order, and if our theory of George just rehashing a Clash of Kings, then that debunks it.
Or it could be Brienne's sword stabs him instead of Brienne's sword. Let me chop your chains off. What does she need her sword for in this chapter?
Can a sword cut that? I feel like that's
no.
I don't know.
Why did she call for sword?
Maybe she was trying to scare Jaime?
Or just like, here. I don't know. Okay, this could be a new section now. What is George
Whoops.
gonna copy from this arc to put in Wins the Winner? No, like
I think we've already covered it.
yeah, she's going through the phrase first. I mean, it makes sense for the phrase to skip over Theon because they killed her, so she's gonna kill them back first and then go for Theon.
She's gonna kill them back.
Yeah, right. I would totally like. I'm not huge on Theon. A lot of people are. They love Theon. I would like it if the Brotherhood without banners went north and got Theon and dragged his sorry ass back to her little werewood cave, and she gutted up Theon. I would enjoy that.
You don't think Theon's gone through enough?
Maybe not killing him, but I would like Theon to see Stoneheart. It could be a
So
tragic end for him
Stannis
because he's
has
like, no, no,
him
no, no, no,
right
no, I didn't
now.
kill him. Yeah, true. But yeah, like what I was saying, like that could be a tragic end for Theon because he's like, I didn't actually kill your kids. It's just gonna be like bullshit or bullshit, and because her throat's cut, she can't talk. And then we're just like, no, that's he didn't actually do it. And then Theon dies, and
She finds out like 5 chapters later.
people get more and more reason to hate Catelyn even after she's been killed once.
Kill her again.
All right. So after this, we're going out to Essos and wandering around the Red Waste and Karth and reading about Daenerys for 5, 6 chapters. Not a whole lot.
5. Yeah, it's not a lot.
It's short. I think it just starts off with her wandering, and then she gets to a city, and then she leaves the city.
Yeah,
Or no,
basically.
Trippy Dream, House of the Undying. Is this book?
Yes.
There we go. Love
House of the
some
Undying, and we get
drug-induced hallucinations.
do we get Whitebeard and Belwas at the end of Clash, or is that the beginning of Storm?
Don't know. No
I'm
clue.
getting these two books so mixed up since I'm reading both of them at the same time.
Okay, so follow us on the Twitter, GC underscore podcast underscore. Follow us on the YouTube. The Glass Candle Podcast is, you can just search for us there. And then we're on SoundCloud. We are on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, couple of other places. And you can always find us on the Facebook group, ASOIF/GOT Discussions and Theories. Come join the group. It's a good place. In a couple weeks, I am going to be on a guest on another podcast, the Ironwood Network. They also do a chapter review, sort of like us, in the sense that they're both chapter reviews. And I will be discussing Sansa 1 with them. That's still a couple weeks away, but give them a look. Check out their show. They just finished up Game of Thrones, or a Game of Thrones. And they're really fun. So check them out, the Ironwood Network. All right, so we'll see you guys for Daenerys 1 Clash of Kings. See you later. Thanks
Thanks,
for listening.
guys.